Hi, I'm Armstrong and we are here looking at how to set up your Armstrong Alloy foil system. We are going to look at all the parts and then how to put it together. You have your Armstrong Alloy mast, the mast top hardware which is titanium and stainless, your titanium board attachment screw set, your bottom bracket that connects with your fuselage, again with titanium screws. We have the screws for your front foil and your tail foil. They are exactly the same screw system as all our foils. And then you have two tools for this system. We have the T40 for the large titanium screws into the mast top and fuselage. And we have the T30, which is the same for attaching the front foil and rear foil as per all our foils. Firstly, we're going to assemble the alloy mast with the mast top. Make sure you apply the Teflon grease to the screw holes in the logo end of the mast. Then get your mast top, slide it on, give it a tap, make sure your screw holes are aligned, then take your mast top hardware. Now make sure you add a little bit of grease to all of these screws. Once you've got your M6 screw and all your other screws seated and in the correct position and greased up, take your T30 tool. We're going to tighten this M6 screw nice and firm. Then we're going to take our T40 tool and tighten the mast top screws. These need to be around 9 Newton meters, which is just a firm tight using a longer lever on the tool. So we're going to go through, tighten each one sequentially once, and then go through a second time. And this pulls the screw into the nylon washer, and make sure you check these screws regularly. Take your alcohol wipe and give the Teflon grease a good clean. That stuff's very sticky, you don't want it going everywhere. And a top tip, our rig has high-end titanium hardware with stainless inserts, so you don't need to continually pull this part off. We recommend leaving it together. Wash it every now and then if you're in a really sandy location, but otherwise you're good to go. Now flipping the foil over, we're going to do the bottom bracket and the fuselage. We always talk about our foil parts as if it's in use orientation. So this is the bottom, this is the top, even though we're flipping it over right now. This is the mast bottom bracket. Make sure we use the Teflon grease, put that in, then take your fuselage, that slips on top of the bottom bracket, and your M8 screw. A little bit of Teflon grease on that. Take your M7 screw. This is our beautiful screw that we made to fit the foil section. T40 tool. Now remember, there is a nylon washer under these screws. It will work without the nylon washer, but the nylon washer does two things. It helps with wear, and it also adds a locking washer element to your system so your screws won't come undone. This is a tapered fit. Really important that you tighten these screws a bit like your car tire. You need to cycle through the screws. Once those are firm, again, take your alcohol wipe, wipe off any excess Teflon grease. You don't want that stuff going anywhere. That's your Armstrong Alloy System complete. You can attach it to the board at this stage or put your foils on. The foils will come with the screws taped in. Remove that and all the packaging. Put your foil on. Now remember, the system's upside down. So this is the bottom. These 3 screw holes face up, or they face you when the system is upside down, but it is the bottom, and these 3 screws line up with the 2 screws in the fuse. We have 3 screws in a barrel nut. You've got your longer 28mm screw in both the rear holes and a shorter gold coloured screw in the front hole. Take the assembled rig, put it on its side, whether it's on the board or not, it's the same. You've got your barrel nut. Put that on the T30 tool and into the top hole on the foil. Now, this barrel nut won't go in if the foil's the wrong way around, so make sure these screws all fit. Then you've got to tighten the screws, so we're going to tighten the 3 screws on the bottom of the foil. This is 8 to 9 Newton meters, firm tight with a long handle on the tool. And lastly, tighten your barrel nut. Make sure that's also firm. That's your front foil attached, ready to go. Next, we're attaching the tail. First thing to do is put a little bit of Teflon grease on these short dome head screws. Now these screws are exactly the same stainless screws with the titanium PVD coating as we use in the carbon rig, but a little bit of Teflon grease on there just means the fuse will last longer. Take your tail foil, line it up, and see the screws are going to sit in the fuselage like that, so you can use one hand on the tail, one hand on your T30 tool, put the tool on the screw head, line the tail up, wind your front screw in a couple of turns, your rear screw in a couple of turns. You can see that sitting on there. Now you can tighten both of these finger tight. Take the longer leverage side of your tool, tighten up both screws. This system is ready to put on the water, and if you haven't already, mount this on your board. We'll show you how to do that next. Now we're ready to put the foil on the board. Take your M7 titanium custom screw set. That's all in keeping with the low corrosion system. Put these in the board, slide them to the end. Our boards do have an entry gate to the front if you've got one of our boards of these tracks. Once you've got those in the board, take your foil, place it on your board in the desired position, slide the 4 titanium T-nut screws onto the mast top. Use your T30 tool, tighten these up. To properly tighten, use the long handle of your tool, and this is going to be 8 to 9 Newton meters again. And that's your Armstrong Alloy System assembled and ready to go. Remember to check the manual for any care, maintenance or safety information. Session time! Okay, so you've finished your session and you're ready to pack up. This is an instruction set on how to disassemble the alloy foil system. There are a couple of tips and tricks. The main one being you do want to remove your tail foil and your front foil after every session. Ideally give these parts a little bit of a rinse. Carbon composite is an anode and it will accelerate corrosion in salt water, so take your foils off. Otherwise the fuse and the mast top can stay on. Check those screws for tightness. So with the removal of the front foil, step 1, same with all our foils, remove the titanium barrel nut from underneath. Get your T30 tool, loosen it off. Then we're going to spin this all the way out. Right, so that's our barrel nut out. Then you've got the 3 screws on the bottom of the main front foil. We're going to loosen all of these. Again, it's the T30 tool. Spin these through 3 screws out. Right, so you've got your screws out, set those aside. To get the front foil off, it's easiest to just rest your foot on the board, put your butt against the tail, grab the front of the mast, press your thumb in here, wiggle the tip up and down, and slide the front foil off. Set that aside and we're onto the tail. I want to undo these 2 screws, the 2 dome heads, loosen them off, spin them out. I like to hold the top of the foil with my thumb. Can hold the screw with my other fingers like that. Drop the screw out. Once you've removed your foils, you can give the front and rear a little rinse, and then you're ready to remove the fuselage if you need to. You can travel with this rig on the board. I actually usually leave these like this on the roof of my car, drive to the next spot, ready to go. However, you can break it down. You're going to need to use the T40. We had the T30 for the foils. We're going to change to the T40 tool for the larger screws into the alloy system. So take your T40, first of all, unwind the tension off these. Now there is Teflon grease in there, so they're a little bit sticky to unwind. Right, once you've got that off with that tapered fit, you want to push down on the front of the fuselage and it'll pop out nice and easily, ready to go. Now your bottom bracket you can remove and store separately. You can also leave that in and pop your screws back in and wind them in a few turns if you want to leave that together. Okay, so removing the mast top, if you're changing mast length, you want to give it a good wash and re-grease. First, you're going to undo the M6 stainless screw from the side. Now, use your T30 tool for that, same as your foil hardware. Undo that screw. Now, there is a barrel nut on the other side, so your barrel nut comes out. Once you've removed your M6 screw and barrel nut, change from the T30 tool to the T40. And we're going to loosen off these 3 screws on the top. Now this will require a little bit of torque because you did do these up nice and tight with our alternate tightening method. So loosen all 3, 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to wind these out. There is Teflon grease on there, so it'll be a little bit of a wind. This is epic fun. You can do this while you're watching TV if you really want to. Once you've removed all the mast top hardware, You're going to flip it over, put this on the ground, stand on your mast top, grab your mast firmly, wiggle it forwards and backwards, slide it out. That's how you disassemble the Armstrong Alloy System, and all the parts come in a quality protective bag. Make sure you put the parts in the bag for travel. You don't want to be dinging, especially your vertical. Get out there, have fun on the water. Yew!